Okay, here is number three in my retirement series. Number one was the physical side, what I've done physically. And I left a couple things out on the physical side. One thing that I do every morning is a 20-minute standing meditation. And that has done wonders for all the posture muscles. It warms up my hands before I do keyboard and flute and sax. So I don't think I've mentioned that in the video. So I want to make sure I do. The next thing, this video is on the mental side of my retirement. What have I done to try and keep my mental faculties going? My job was delivery, so I didn't really have in-depth problem solving in my life. I would go to some place and make a delivery, have to solve a couple problems, do a little bit of social interaction, then on to the next place. So the books on retirement that I read said take a look at your job and look at the aspects of it you liked and make sure you replicate those or keep those going so once you've retired those skills don't decline. So for me, like I said, most of my stuff was just how are you doing, interaction back and forth, and then I deliver. Sometimes I try and sell something. Sometimes I'd explain a new product, but it was pretty simple and wasn't very in-depth problem solving. So once I retired, I was cognizant that a lot of people think they're the same, but the reality is they're slowing down. So the kids talk are faster and things are happening faster, and why are things happening so quickly in that movie? Well, the reality is they haven't sped up. As we age, we start to slow down, and you're not aware of that. So I started doing something early on, which I haven't done lately because I've been too busy with so many instruments. But early on, I was doing luminosity. And I like that for two reasons. There's other programs out there. They're probably about the same. This one appealed to me, and I thought I was doing a good job. But there's two things I like about it. One is it divides your mental capabilities into various areas, like how quickly can you switch from problem to problem? How much do you actually perceive? What is your reaction time when you do figure out something's going on? So it addresses all these different areas of intelligence and your mental capabilities. The second thing I liked about it is it grades you on a daily basis. So I was doing it every day for I think 2 or 3 years initially in retirement, and it was fascinating to me to watch the scores slowly crawl up. So that was gratifying. Okay, I'm getting faster, I'm getting better. Now this doesn't mean that I can solve every problem that I run into and that my brain's amazing. No, all it means is I'm maintaining and maybe enhancing a little bit the level that I retired at. So I haven't noticed in retirement any forgetfulness or I maybe I'm 67. I haven't hit that age yet where a lot of that happens, but the luminosity really helped. And what I really noticed was when I didn't get a good night's sleep or had a back issue and I was hurting and I didn't sleep very well or a bad bed or whatever, my scores would drop 35 to 40%. And that's when I became aware that if I don't get good sleep, I have to be very careful in making decisions and in driving. I don't want to make a major decision on a half a night's sleep when I'm at 50% of my capabilities. Or when I'm out driving, I don't want to be driving around when I'm half asleep and I have no reaction time and no time to perceive what's going on around me. So that really stuck with me. I've been very, very careful when I'm sick or when I'm feeling down to not make major decisions and not put myself in situations where I have to react very quickly. Now, the luminosity fell away when I started practicing flute. I was doing saxophone and then I picked up the flute and I fell in love with flute. And I know that learning the flute, and I was pretty much a beginner, I was like playing fourth and fifth grade stuff. And that to me was like learning a second language. And I've heard that learning a second language is wonderful for your mental capabilities, doing Sudoku puzzles, doing anything that challenges you. Well, flute for me was challenging. It forced me to learn new motor skills. It forced me to breathe differently. It forced me to form an embouchure with my face. So these were all things that were new skills that my head was going to learn, and that helped out a lot. And then years into retirement, I started doing keyboards and vocals. And once again, these are brand new languages, if you were, of activities and neurons to do things. Yes, you're producing music, but you're doing it in an entirely different way. I played trumpet when I was in fourth grade through 2 years of college, but very little of that transferred to sax. I mean, I knew the way that it was supposed to sound, but I was very, very remedial in my ability to do that. So learning the flute pushed out luminosity and enabled me to, I think it's been helpful. And lately I've been doing a lot of memorization, and I hearken back to, the good old days in Westerns where you see kids who had the Bible memorized, and the adults too. And when you think about it, that was their way of maintaining mental faculties by all the memorization and the rote. That I think that helps the learning process and the ability to process. So I've done that with music. I've been trying to memorize as much as I can. I probably have 5, 6 hours of music memorized from various bands that if I had to, I could perform, and that's good for my head. I mean, in addition to being able to work and to get out there and perform, it's really good for my head to have all that memorized. In fact, anything that I perform, I typically memorize it. And I've been in a jazz quartet now for 4 years, so we easily have 100 songs. And then there's the Jamie Jameson band I've been playing in for 20 years. We easily have 40 or 50 songs we pull from. I have a jazz duo called Sonoma Soul that has maybe 20 songs, and they're not all the same song, not all the same keys. So those are all memorized, and I think that's really a good thing. I think that's really been helpful for me. So how that applies to you, if you're not doing a musical instrument, anything you can memorize, maybe take your favorite book. You love Hemingway or you love anybody, and just try and memorize a page of it, and just the activity of doing that, or take a second language. A lot of people do that, but these are ways to do the mental side of retirement. Something else I'm very aware of also is that as my physical abilities have increased in retirement from the Younger Next Year book, I know I'm processing faster and I'm smarter. It to me, it's ironic to be 67 and to be playing sax and flute better than I have in my entire life. And part of that's a physical thing I'm practicing every day, but part of it is a mental. I mean, my head is processing now. It's muscle memory. It's not the same thing as making things up. But something else that I'll throw this in. One thing I really enjoyed, and for a non-musician, if you want the experience of being a musician, do something like Toastmasters, because with Toastmasters you have to. Yeah, I used to do table topics with them, and I loved it. You're walking up to the front of the stage, and you don't know what the topic is. They're going to shout out acorns, or they're going to shout out the school system, or whatever. You have to talk about that, making stuff up for 2 minutes. And you have to do it without ums and ahs and you knows and all the things people throw in to fill in the space when they can't think of what they're going to say next. But Toastmasters, that's a great organization. I mean, from a mental standpoint. And yes, a lot of people are nervous standing in front of people, but if you go to the same group and you get to know all the people, I think those nerves will dissolve. I still do recital work with my flute teacher, and I'm doing it in front of a whole bunch of parents and a whole bunch of kids that are 10 years old, 12 years old, 15, whatever. And, part of me is saying, isn't this a little embarrassing, Keith? You're 67 and you're playing next to a kid that's 10. And the other part of me says, so what? I'm memorizing a piece of music, and I'm locking into a higher level performance, and that's worth more than whatever my ego might suffer from the whole thing. So I view that as mental acuity, also as a memorization. And there's times I go back to luminosity, and I'm slow. I mean, I look at it and it gives you grades. So I'm going, okay, wow, I really nailed that one. And then I look at the score and I go, wow, I'm about 20% slower. I'm about 20% below where my scores were. So that tells me if I really want to do that, I have to do it on a regular basis. One thing I've found in life, if not retirement, is anything I want to do that I'm serious about, I have to do it on a regular basis with discipline. And it has to, when I did luminosity, it wasn't, I do it when I feel like it. It was, I eat breakfast, I do luminosity. Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing it right. Same thing with my saxophone and flute and everything else. I don't wait for the feeling of the magic's here, time to practice. No, that's baloney. I get up and I practice, and I know exactly. I am in time my segments, so I know how much time I'm spending, and I'm up to about 2.5, 3 hours a day music. And when I retired, physically, I couldn't do that. I just didn't have the back for it. Didn't have the physical ability to do that. Now I can, and now it's actually getting easier the stronger I get. So the challenge is to say to myself, well, just because you did this last year, maybe you can do better. And I on all the music things I do, I put metronome markings and I put dates. So the same thing, if you were to memorize parts of the Bible or parts of whatever book you like, you could write down the dates you tried to do it and even write and put in brackets how much you memorized, and then pick it back up and see if you can read a sentence and how much is still there. So these are things I think your mind's a muscle, and you use it and it gets stronger, and you don't use it and it goes away. So I'm very cognizant. Even when I go on vacation, I practice my sax and my flute. I'm convinced that that has sped up my ability to process, my ability to think quickly. And I know when I did luminosity, they have some exercise that works on your peripheral vision. I was driving down the street going, my God, I see everything. I mean, it really expanded my ability to see what was around me. Now I'm getting into virtual reality, and that's going to be fantastic. I mean, that's just going to be it can be a game changer in a variety of ways, in my opinion, over the next few years. Anyway, that's my thing on the mental side of retirement. 12 years in now. Next year, it'll be different. Next year, I probably will have stumbled onto something better. I have the assumption, and maybe it's erroneous, but I have the assumption that no matter what I'm doing, there's something out there a notch better. So it's worth looking for that. It's worth not settling, for what I'm doing now. And like I said, it may be all in my head, but still, that's how I think. So welcome to Practice with K Riot. I hope this was useful for you. Video number 4 is going to be on passions. Thanks.